Maybe you clicked out of curiosity, or maybe, without realizing it, you were searching for a quiet space where words come slowly and silence is part of the conversation. I've shared this story with care, like weaving together memories, pain, and small discoveries, hoping that somewhere along the way, you'll see a piece of yourself. If you do, even for just a moment, stay a while. Listen as long as you want, and if you feel like it, leave a sign. It doesn't have to be much. Sometimes just a simple "I'm here" is enough to change everything. If this story moves you, a like, a share, or a comment helps more than you know. And if you want to stick around for more, subscribing means the world. Welcome. You're not alone here. Hope is expensive. Cancer is worse. I didn't cry when Dr. Patel showed me the new scans. I just sat there, staring at the grayscale mess of a 7-year-old's bones and blood, like I was trying to decode a foreign language I'd once spoken fluently and had forgotten out of survival. But I understood enough. The leukemia was back. Relapse indicators are clear, she said gently. We'll need to act quickly. There's a phase 2 trial starting in Seattle. It's expensive, but it's promising. I nodded. No tears, no panic. Because I'd prepared for this. Not in the way people usually mean when they say that. Not emotionally. How the hell do you prepare for your kid reliving chemo? But financially? Reluctantly? Manically? Absolutely. Over the last 4 years, I'd become an accidental financial strategist. I worked the overnight shifts at a warehouse 3 nights a week. I cleaned offices on Sundays. I did freelance copy editing for medical journals, even though I never finished college. I sold my engagement ring, my signed Kurt Vonnegut collection, even my late dad's old vinyls, the ones I swore I'd keep for Eli when he was older. Every dime went into the fund. A high-yield savings account I opened in my name, with biometric login, separate from everything. I didn't drink. I didn't date. I lived in an over-insulated studio with a second-hand couch and a busted stove. Every month, I moved $200 to $300 into the fund like clockwork. That's what moms do when they're scared. They over-prepare and undersleep. As of this morning, I had $58,350 in the account. Just $1,650 short of the $60,000 estimate Seattle had quoted for the clinical trial. And my final freelance payment was set to hit in 2 days, Friday, which meant I was finally going to tell Eli. I'd even drawn a goofy lion with an airplane hat and planned to slip 2 plane tickets into his lunchbox because he loved surprises more than cake. He calls me Lion Mom, by the way. Always has. He thinks I'm brave, magic, untouchable. I don't have the heart to tell him that sometimes I cry in the parking lot after long shifts because my back spasms and I can't afford physical therapy. That night, he fell asleep curled up beside me on the couch, heating turned down low to save on electric, with his tiny arms around my waist like I was some kind of fortress. He mumbled in his sleep, "Mommy, I like when you smell like cinnamon rolls." It was the shampoo I use from Dollar General, but I didn't correct him. I just held him tighter, thinking, 2 more days. We made it. We're almost there. If I'd known what was waiting in my inbox the next morning, I wouldn't have slept at all. Because in 12 hours, everything I bled for was about to be erased. Not by the disease, but by people who claim to love us. And trust me, leukemia is cruel, but entitlement dressed as family, that's lethal. Some monsters don't live under your bed. Sometimes they text you from the guest room. It happened at 12:17 a.m. I was half asleep on the couch, Eli's legs draped over mine, his stuffed lion wedged between us, when my phone buzzed on the side table. Normally I'd ignore it, but something about the vibration, the sharpness of it, jolted me awake. One new message. From Mom. Hey, sweetheart. Just wanted to let you know we booked everything for Kira's Maldives trip. Oceanfront suite and spa package. It's gorgeous. You'll love the photos. Oh, and we used the family fund. Family comes first night. I sat up so fast I nearly woke Eli. My first instinct? It's a joke. My second? No one jokes like that at midnight. My third? I opened the banking app, and that's when my lungs stopped moving. $27.46. That's what remained. Not the $58,350 I saw just that morning. Not the nearly 4 years of penny pinching, skipped meals, and side hustles. Just $27. I blinked twice, force quit the app, logged in again, same number. Somewhere deep in my brain, a memory surfaced. Last year, when my mom had staged a fake panic attack just to get me to add her as an emergency contact to the account in case anything happened to me. I'd added her to stop the guilt trip. She wasn't supposed to have access. But somehow, she found a way. I didn't scream. I couldn't. I just sat there in the dark, Eli snoring gently beside me, while my world fell apart at the seams. When I finally called her, it rang 3 times before she picked up. She sounded like she was poolside, cocktail in hand. "Darla, what's with the late call?" she chirped. I didn't even say hi. "You took the money." She laughed, like I'd caught her eating the last cookie. "Oh, don't be so dramatic," she said. "It's not like it's gone forever. You're always saving. You'll get it back." I was shaking. "Mom, that was Eli's treatment fund. The Seattle trial is in 2 days. Silence. Then Dad's voice cut in. She'd put me on speaker. "Well, maybe tell your kid to hold off a bit," he barked. "Kira's mental health is just as important. She's been planning this trip for years." "Are you serious right now?" My voice cracked. "You used my son's cancer money for a beach resort?" "She's your sister," Mom snapped. "She deserves some joy. God knows you suck the life out of every family gathering with your martyr routine." I gritted my teeth. "I worked for every cent. You didn't give me a dime? That money was Eli's lifeline." "And we gave you a roof when you were knocked up with that boy," Dad snarled. "You think you did this alone? He's your grandson. He's your mistake," Dad said. "We didn't ask for him. Be glad we even acknowledge him." There are moments that live in your body like a toxin. That call is now part of my blood. I don't remember hanging up. I remember standing in the kitchen, hands trembling, and throwing up in the sink. I remember rinsing my mouth, walking back to the couch, and finding Eli clutching my arm like it was the only safe thing left in the world. He didn't wake, he didn't know. But I knew, and I wasn't going to Seattle, not without a plan. There's a moment when heartbreak turns into precision. I didn't call the hospital. There was no point. I couldn't tell them to hold a spot on the trial because my parents blew $60,000 on a luxury spa for my sister, who couldn't go 2 weeks without a massage. Instead, I stared at the sink for what felt like an hour. The vomit rinsed away, the bile still burning in my throat. And then I did something I hadn't done in 10 years. I texted Carmen Ruiz. We went to community college together, back when I still thought I had time to finish my degree. She was the kind of person who barely spoke in class, but always handed in projects 3 days early. I remember she once showed up to a final exam with stitches in her hand, said she'd sliced it fixing her grandma's microwave, but still typed her essay with one hand. Tough girl. We weren't close. But there was one time, sophomore year, her dog got sick, something with the liver, and the vet needed $1,200 up front. Carmen didn't have it. I paid half, quietly, told her to pay me back someday or not at all. She never forgot. When I texted her, "Hey, I need help. It's complicated, she replied within 90 seconds. Still got that weird email you made me use for finals? Send everything there. I'm not asking questions. Yet. I forwarded the screenshots. The Maldives booking confirmation. The midnight text from Mom. My drained account. Voice memos I'd saved over the years. Things my parents had said in passing. Threatening to pull support or reclaim what's ours. Copies of temporary loan agreements they made me sign years ago to help Kira get back on her feet. And then I waited. 10 minutes later, she messaged back. War. Just one word. At 3:13 a.m., I was on a Zoom call with her. Carmen looked like she hadn't slept in 2 days. There were 3 empty energy drink cans on her desk. Her black hoodie was half-zipped, and her fingers moved across the keyboard like a concert pianist during a solo. Your mom's dumb, she said casually, eyes flicking between monitors. She didn't even try to mask the transfer. She pulled up a screen, line items from my bank account. $14,200, Maldives Resort. $2,400, first-class flights. $850, lounge upgrades. $5,000, transferred directly to a card under Kira Grace Whitmore. Wait, Kira has a joint card with my mom? She has 5. She's been using this one for years. Probably has no idea it's technically not in her name. Dumb again. It felt surreal, watching someone dissect the bones of your financial betrayal in real time. How much of this can we reverse? I asked. Not legally, she said. You gave your mom access. You're toast on that front. My stomach dropped. But, she grinned, we can bury them. I leaned in. How? Digital paper trail. Every login, every transfer, every time she logged into your account, even location pings. Your mom's been sloppy, and if we tie this to tax fraud or social manipulation, you might not get the money back, but you can make them wish they'd never touched it. I blinked. Tax fraud? She smirked. Let's just say your parents have been generous with the definition of dependent on their last 2 filings. We worked until the sun came up. I muted myself every few minutes to check on Eli, still asleep in the next room, blissfully unaware that his entire future was now running through IP addresses and browser metadata. At 6:47 a.m., Carmen sent me a zipped folder. Whitmore's unmasked.zip. Inside were subfolders: bank transfers, voice threats, loan agreements, screenshots, emotional abuse, Kyra transactions, tax and suspicions, all neatly time-stamped, sorted, cross-referenced. At the very top, a text file named Your Silence Isn't Weakness.txt. For the first time in 24 hours, I breathed deeply, because this wasn't just about getting the money back anymore. This was about control. This was about making people who thought they'd get away with it realize they'd messed with the wrong lion. Sometimes it's not just about justice. Sometimes it's about exposing the entire machine. By noon the next day, Carmen had sent me a second folder. This one was bigger, heavier, the kind of digital payload that could make lawyers sweat and reputations collapse. It didn't just have receipts, it had intent. Inside the archive were files I'd long forgotten even existed. Carmen had gone deep. Public records, old email backups, financial footprints that hadn't seen daylight in years. The pattern was undeniable. 3 separate documents signed by me, marked temporary loan agreement, all drafted by my father. Each one labeled with vague purposes. Kira's business expansion, family emergency, vehicle safety upgrade. The vehicle safety upgrade turned out to be a $12,000 down payment on Kira's custom Audi Q3, complete with pink leather seats and a full-body wrap she posted about on Instagram with the caption, Manifesting Luxury Chef Queen Mode. I remembered the day she got that car. I was scrubbing industrial ovens for $10.50 an hour while Eli waited outside with his inhaler. Carmen's voice came through the call later that afternoon, dry and matter-of-fact. They framed these loans as if you willingly offered support. But it's coercion, especially with how they worded the guilt trips. I've seen this kind of manipulation in corporate fraud cases, just not usually with glitter pens and family cookouts. Then came the tax records. Your parents claimed Eli as a dependent in 2021 and 2022, she said, sending screenshots. Filed under joint returns, claimed they provided 50% of his support. They didn't see him those years, I said. I know, that's federal tax fraud. I went silent. I remembered 2021. Eli was hospitalized twice. I lived off soup packets and charity food boxes. My parents sent one get-well card, and it came unsigned. They hadn't spent a single dollar on him. Next came the part that made my blood run cold. Kira's luxury vacation, the one that wiped our treatment fund, wasn't technically funded by her. Carmen pulled up the logins. She's been using a credit card connected to a shared sub-account under your mom's name. Your mom linked that card to your fund 3 months ago. So, Kira's been using the cancer money all along? I asked. Not directly, but through deliberate misdirection. That's enough to make her complicit, if not criminally, then publicly. But what if she didn't know? Then she's dangerously naive, Carmen said. But I doubt it. Her spa appointments started the same week your mom accessed the fund for the first time. There was one last message from Carmen that stuck with me more than all the documents combined. She'd texted it with no context, just a line beneath the final metadata file. I think I'm doing this for more than just you. I didn't ask what she meant. Not yet. Because in that moment, I realized I wasn't just fighting to get Eli to Seattle anymore. I was fighting to burn down the myth of the good family my parents had spent decades pretending to be. And that was going to take a little strategy. If your entire life is curated for likes, the truth doesn't need to scream. It just needs to be uploaded. My mom doesn't believe in therapy. She believes in Facebook, where trauma is cropped out, filters fix family, and love is measured by likes. She posts daily, sometimes twice, brags about her girls like she raised us on fresh sourdough and emotional support, not gaslighting and guilt trips. If you didn't know better, you'd think she was Mother Teresa with a Fitbit, which gave me an idea. Actually, it gave me the idea. Back when I was 22 and still speaking to her regularly, I helped set up her photo cloud on her iPad. She didn't understand file syncing, so I created an auto-linked folder to back up her pictures to a shared cloud drive, just in case her device crashed. She never changed the settings. 12 years later, that folder still existed, still linked, still syncing both ways. I logged in and smiled. Carmen helped me organize the files. We didn't just dump raw screenshots. We built a narrative. Photos of Eli in the hospital, receipts showing my fund transfers, voice transcripts where my dad called Eli her mistake, bank logs with Kira's spa expenses, text messages where my mom wrote, "You owe us. That boy should be grateful we acknowledge him." We created a folder called Family First, and Carmen programmed a script that would quietly sync it to her Maldives vacation album. No notifications, no alerts, just passive auto-upload. All we had to do was wait for her to post. It didn't take long. The next afternoon, she uploaded a photo of herself and Kira, standing on a white sand beach in designer sunglasses, holding matching cocktails. Caption: "Nothing like peace, healing, and bonding time with my favorite girl. Blessed car self-care." 30 seconds later, the first truth bomb synced. Then another, then a dozen. People noticed. Her comment section went from hearts and OMG queens to, "Did you really steal from your grandson's chemo fund for this? Is this the same daughter who got a $12,000 Audi while her nephew went untreated? You said you raised him. You literally called him a mistake in a text." The silence didn't last long. Her church small group unfollowed her. Her neighborhood ladies' circle group chat removed her without warning. Her bridge club, the one she hosted every other Thursday, replaced her with a woman named Barbara, who makes better spinach dip. Kira's influencer friends caught wind too. One of them stitched the screenshots into a TikTok captioned, "How Not to Be a Grandparent, a Masterclass in Narcissism." It went viral in 6 hours. That night, Dad called. I didn't answer. When he tried again, I picked up and put him on speaker. Eli was next to me, curled in a blanket, quietly coughing through the tail end of a fever. The sound filled the silence. Dad yelled, threatened to sue. I said nothing, then I hung up. Sometimes justice doesn't arrive in court. It shows up in the form of silence, side eyes, and canceled contracts. The first call came at 9:03 a.m. "Blocked number," I answered. Dad's voice exploded through the speaker like a landmine. "You smug little brat! Do you know what you've done? Your mother's been crying for hours. Kira's in a panic. And I swear to God, if you don't take those lies down..." I put him on speaker, placed the phone on the table, and let Eli's soft, persistent coughing fill the air. It wasn't staged. He was on his third cold this month. His lungs were weak again. The air purifier I ordered wouldn't arrive until next week. For 15 seconds, Dad didn't say a word. Then he hung up. Carmen texted an hour later. "Heads up, Kira just got dropped by her PR agency. One of her sponsors reposted your screenshots with the caption, 'We do not support theft from cancer patients.'" Brutal. I checked her Instagram. Gone were the polished reels of self-care and crystal healing hashtags. In their place, one blurry front-facing camera video. Kira. No makeup, puffy eyes, sniffling. I didn't know all the money came from that account. I thought Mom had savings. I thought Darla would tell me if it was serious. The comment section wasn't buying it. "You posted a $300 spa day while your nephew was in chemo. Your mom gave you the card? You didn't ask where it came from? Girl, just log off." That same day, Carmen sent me a screenshot from a local Facebook mom group she somehow got into. A post titled, "Do not trust Linda Whitmore. She stole from her sick grandson's treatment fund to send her other daughter to the Maldives." The thread was over 200 comments long. One neighbor admitted to scratching their white Escalade outside Trader Joe's. Another claimed she'd been booted from the neighborhood book club after defending herself too loudly at brunch. Someone else posted a picture of her house with the caption, "Wondering if this looks good enough for a Grandparent of the Year lawn sign." The silence from my parents was deafening. They didn't call again, didn't text. I imagined them pacing their tastefully decorated living room, trying to delete comments faster than they were reposted. I imagined Kira refreshing her follower count as it plummeted by the hundreds. And weirdly, I didn't feel victorious. I felt tired. This wasn't revenge. This was accountability. And even that came at a cost. Because I knew this wasn't over. Not by a long shot. Some scars don't heal. They find someone else to protect. It started with a question I wasn't expecting. We were on a late-night call. Carmen was screen-sharing a list of digital fingerprints left behind by my mother's frantic attempts to delete posts. When she paused mid-sentence. Then she said, "Can I tell you something? Off record?" I muted myself and nodded. She leaned back in her chair, lit a cigarette, her third that hour. Then, "Your dad's name is Richard Whitmore, right?" Born 1959. Went by Rick back in the day? I blinked. Yeah, why? She didn't answer immediately, just opened another folder and dragged a scanned document into view. A birth certificate. Name, Carmen Elena Ruiz. Mother, Teresa Ruiz. Father, Richard Allen Whitmore. I stared at it. My mouth went dry. He was 22, she said quietly. She was a waitress at this bar he used to hang out at near the base. My mom didn't even know he had a girlfriend, let alone a fiancé. I didn't speak. When she got pregnant, he gave her $500 and disappeared, told her she was unstable and attention-seeking, then blocked her number. I clenched my jaw. That sounded exactly like him. We lived out of motels for a year. Mom worked 3 jobs. I never met him, never heard his voice. But when I turned 18, I found a copy of the certificate. I knew who he was. I Googled him, saw his perfect suburban family, his lake house, his polished wife. 2 daughters, 1 blonde, 1 brunette, and then I saw you. I sat there, frozen, not just from shock, but from recognition. Because Carmen didn't sound angry. She sounded resigned, like someone who'd already grieved this story a long time ago. I wasn't going to say anything, she continued. But when I saw how they treated you, the guilt, the manipulation, the lies dressed up as family duty, I realized they didn't change. They just replaced us. I couldn't breathe for a second. All this time, Carmen wasn't just helping me because I once paid a vet bill. She was watching the same cycle play out, just in shinier clothes. Why didn't you ever reach out? I asked quietly. She laughed, bitter. Reach out and say what? Hey, I'm your secret daughter from the 80s. Can we talk over brunch? That kind of family doesn't take responsibility. They perform it, and they punish anyone who messes with the script. I didn't argue, because she was right. My parents didn't have children. They had props. Me? I was the over-functioning disappointment. Kira, the golden girl. Carmen, the erased. But now we were 2 women, once kept apart by silence, working together to destroy the illusion that had trapped us both. And for the first time since this all began, I didn't feel alone. Not every villain knows they're playing a role. Some just follow the script they were handed. The message came late, not dramatic, no all caps, just a single quiet ping while I was folding Eli's pajamas. Kira. I didn't know they took everything. I thought they'd leave something. I thought you'd save it in time. For a moment, I didn't move. I just stared at the screen. She followed it up with something I didn't expect. A voice memo. I hesitated before hitting play. Kira's voice came through the speaker, quieter than I'd ever heard it. No filters, no hashtags, no fake excitement. Just raw breath and tension. I know you hate me. I probably deserve that. But I need you to hear this. That vacation wasn't my idea. None of this was. She exhaled shakily. Mom said you were always dramatic, that you'd overreact. She told me the account was part of the family pool, that it was temporary, that you always came through in the end. Dad made me post that stupid cocktail photo. He literally took the picture himself, said I needed to remind people what normal looked like, said it would make the rumors about the family go away. They've always done this, controlled the angles, told me what to wear, how to smile, what to say about you, about Eli. There was a pause. Then her voice broke, not dramatically, but like someone who had finally realized she'd been living someone else's lie. I didn't ask questions, Darla, and that's on me. I was so used to being the pretty picture that I stopped wondering who was holding the frame. I didn't respond. Not because I didn't feel anything, but because I felt too much. Anger, confusion, A strange twinge of grief, not for Kira, but for the childhood we could have had if our parents weren't more interested in curating us than raising us. I thought about how many birthday parties Kira had posed for, smiling next to a cake someone else made. How many times she posted selfies at brunch while I sat 2 towns over rationing Eli's asthma medication. How many holidays she spent performing perfection, while I was made to feel like the footnote. I closed the message, and for the first time, I didn't see Kira as the golden child. I saw her for what she was, a perfectly groomed illusion, but even illusions leave damage. I didn't reply. Not that night, maybe not ever, because sometimes silence isn't revenge. Sometimes it's just the boundary you should have drawn years ago. The real cost of betrayal isn't money, it's presence, and once lost, it's not refundable. We made it to Seattle, not with fanfare, not with balloons or dramatic airport goodbyes. Just me, Eli, a carry-on full of dollar store puzzles, and a duffel bag packed like a survival kit. He was excited, called the hospital his lion cave, and asked if nurses give out gummy bears after IVs. I said I wasn't sure, but we could always ask. What I didn't tell him was that we were short. Still, $4,300 short. The fundraiser Carmen helped me set up hadn't gained much traction. The story had blown up, sure, but viral doesn't always pay medical bills. I applied for 5 emergency grants. Got rejected by 4. Then, one afternoon, the finance desk called. Ms. Whitmore, just letting you know the remaining balance was covered by a private donor. I blinked. What? Full amount. Paid anonymously. We've marked your account clear through phase 2. I thanked her, hung up, and tried to breathe. I assumed it was a charity. Maybe someone who'd seen the screenshots? An old teacher? One of Kira's burned sponsors? Then it happened again. And again. Every week, someone called to make payments. Quiet ones. Partial amounts. Enough to stay ahead of the next invoice. The voice was always the same. Male. Flat tone, Midwestern accent. Said things like, just paying today's portion, and should be there now. I didn't recognize the number, but I recognized the cadence, the pauses between syllables, the way he clipped Ms. Whitmore like it tasted bitter in his mouth. It was him. My father was paying for Eli's treatment, not through apology, not through messages, just through wires and silence. I didn't call. I didn't thank him, because the cost wasn't money. It was being here, in this room, with Eli, with the machines and the hope and the sleepless nights. He wasn't here for any of that, and you don't get to buy your way into a story you tried to erase. That night, Eli fell asleep watching cartoons with the IV in his arm, his lion tucked under his chin. I sat by the window, holding a mug of hospital coffee that tasted like dust and pennies. And for the first time in months, I let myself exhale, slow, shaky, and real. Because this breath, it belonged to us. Family isn't always who gives you life. Sometimes it's who gives you breath. We moved out of the city 6 months after Seattle. I found a small apartment near the coast. Nothing fancy, but with enough light for Eli to run and laugh. And run he did. He's a different kid now. Stronger, smiling wider, chasing seagulls and yelling, "Mommy, watch me," like every day is a victory. One evening, while Eli was asleep, I opened an old shared photo folder my mom had linked to her cloud. It was still active, still synced. But then I noticed something strange. A photo slot, empty. Just a blank square with a file name, Darla and Eli 2020, before they vanished. I clicked it, but the image was gone, deleted, erased, forgotten. I smiled, because we didn't vanish. We just stopped waiting to be seen, stopped asking for permission to exist. And as they clung to photos, memories, and the guilt that weighed heavier every day, Eli and I were living in light, in freedom, in truth, in a world where no one could ever again steal our breath. Family isn't the blood in your veins, it's the air you breathe. And this time, we're finally breathing free.